Annie, can you start just by telling us a little bit about your background? Because I know you did not start in sales and you are the very definition of a reluctant salesperson. So
Oh,
can you talk about your background and how you ended up where you are?
absolutely. My story is so direct if you look at it full, but indirect if you look at it close up. So, one of the best things I ever heard from a cab driver in London is that if you took a bowl of spaghetti and threw it at the ceiling, the way that it landed, if you trace that, that would be a map of London. And that's how my story feels when you look at it really close up. But I do
That's
come,
hilarious, by the way, because London cab drivers notoriously have the knowledge, right? So they
right?
very notoriously know all the little strings of spaghetti.
Well, their frontal lobes, when they're autopsied, their frontal lobes are bigger because they have to store all that information. But even they will say, like, hey, they give themselves credit. They're
Yeah.
like, yes, I am growing my brain with all of this information. But
Wow, this is a fascinating diversion from the
right,
topic.
but but that is how my story is too, in that it
Yeah.
seems very clear. I am the child of two entrepreneurs. I grew
Mhm.
up knowing that entrepreneurship was a possibility for me, that speaking was a possibility for me, and all of these things. And so in that way, my
Mhm.
story feels and seems very direct. But
Yeah.
I
And probably, to be honest, not dissimilar from a lot of the people listening, actually. I
Mhm.
think a lot of the business owners listening are, children of entrepreneurs.
Yeah, and
Mhm.
and we're lucky in that aspect that we understand that it's hard, because a lot
Mhm.
of people think that entrepreneurship's super easy and glossy and fabulous, but kids of entrepreneurs, we know the truth, but we also know the
Mhm.
possibility. But for
Yeah.
me, where my story started, I was in musical theater. My background's in musical theater.
Oh.
Then from musical theater, I went into theater marketing. Then I
Mhm.
realized that a theater is actually just a super small business and that the needs are really similar. And
Right.
that's how I started working with other solopreneurs and super small mom and pops and online businesses so that they
Working
could,
with them on marketing, Annie?
on marketing, yes,
Yep.
on branding, on positioning, on their competitive differentiation, and all of those beautiful wonderful things. I also did a veritable boatload of copywriting back in the
Uh-huh.
day, and I loved it. And
Yeah.
this is a marketing show, and I will tell you right now, every single dime that you spend on marketing is totally worth it unless you do what I did.
Okay.
And if you do what
We're
I
interested.
did,
We're interested, Annie. I can see why you were a good copywriter.
oh my God, right? But unless you did what I did, and what I did was I thought that marketing and marketing and marketing and marketing and constantly marketing and being everywhere simultaneously and reach and visible, visible, visible would get me across the finish line of profit. And it
Mm.
absolutely did not. What it
Right.
did was it made me a delightfully popular person with a whole lot of vanity metrics that felt really good.
Lots and lots of followers, Annie.
Tons of followers,
Uh-huh.
tons of hangers on,
Yep.
but two things. Number one, the leads that came in I wasn't selling to, so I was over delivering and under
Mm.
asking, so that I was never actually getting a full thriving client relationship out of those
What do you
people.
mean by that? Do you mean that you were getting leads in and you were doing work for them, but not
Yeah.
really charging them?
Exactly,
Oh.
precisely. And so, my calling card for the long time, for the longest time, for years, was the half hour discovery call that turned into 90 minutes of free coaching.
So
Mm,
120 free minutes of work, and then they
right?
have what they need basically to go do it on
Yes,
their own. Hmm.
absolutely. 100 bajillion%. And
Hmm.
so I was watching these things happen in my marketing and branding consulting and writing business. And I looked at my clients and I saw it in them first. And I said, well, what the heck? Why aren't my clients more successful? They have all the drive, all the passion, all the skill, and they're following these marketing plans to the letter. Why aren't they a household name or anywhere even close to 1,000th of a household name? Why aren't they
Right.
known in any households? And the
Right.
answer was because they weren't asking. And I
Yeah.
asked the question, well, why aren't they asking? And I realized it's because I wasn't asking. And so I
Yeah.
thought, okay, I got to get familiar with sales. Once I started studying sales, I found a lot of information that I really disagreed with, but I found more that I truly, totally agreed with.
What did you disagree with? That's interesting. Do you remember any of the specific things?
That I disagreed on selling. I disagree with a lot of the ways that corporate selling is taught, and I also disagree with a lot of the ways that sales is positioned as this lecherous, intrusive thing. It really is just saying the cost for this apple is 79 cents. That is a sale, right? But we put so much weight and so many gimmicks and tricks behind it that it really can become the art of manipulation, but it doesn't have to be.
Yeah, that's so fascinating. I think you really nailed it right there. Is very often sales is sort of associated with manipulation.
Yes.
And I think it's just a huge turnoff for, frankly, people with integrity, right?
Absolutely. And that's it. It's like, why do we need fake urgency? Why do we need fake scarcity? Why can't we just create actual authentic urgency or scarcity, right? And then a lot of sales training is so profit focused, and I love profit. I'm not against it. But what happens is when you look at a sales minded thing or something that is positioned to help you in sales, the very first thing you'll see is these stories that are like, I made $1 million overnight. Now you can do the same thing. And I'm like, no, man, entrepreneurship is hard and it's a slog and it's a beautiful burden, but it's challenging. We don't need to make it seem like sales is this big gotcha that then will get us to where we want to be. So many of us are rebelling against how we've been sold to. And yet those behaviors are still out there and still being taught. So the Non-Sleazy Sales Academy, my company, asked
the Non-Sleazy Sales Academy is a great name.
Thank you. Oh, that's a whole other story. But I was asking myself, like, how do we take this necessary skill that is so misunderstood, especially by introverts, especially by service providers, especially by highly empathic or sensitive people? How do we take that, skim off the strategy, remove it from the sleaze, and offer that up so that businesses that are already visible can compete in these market spaces? And that's how I wound up here. And the name, I walked around my house for 3 days going, how can I just want to relate that it's non-sleazy sales. What should I call it? Sell this, sell with that. What should I call it? What should I call it? And then finally it hit me like the obvious truck and was like, call it the Non-Sleazy Sales Academy, dude.
I love how often you're hit by the obvious truck, Annie. Like that's how you figured out you needed to work on sales in your own business, was seeing your clients struggle with it. You know, I think one thing that's interesting here is this idea of manipulation is something that marketers are often also accused of. So it's both sales and marketing. And I think that really fundamentally it comes back to the buyer journey, right? Buyers have a specific way they want to make purchases. And as salespeople and as marketers, our job is to fit into that and not try and sort of change that route. And so the classic example is if you're in a retail store and you're looking to buy some clothing, kind of sucks when, you know, somebody comes up to you and says, you know, how can I help you? If really you just want to browse around and see the options first, and then reach out to somebody when you're ready to ask, you know, kind of the next level of questions. And frankly, that is how everything is bought these days, right? We want more as buyers, we want more and more information. So when we reach out to somebody in the sales team, we have very specific questions that we want answered and we want to complete a transaction.
Absolutely. And most of us sit when we are ready to be sold to, whether it's a retail environment, like you just mentioned, or especially on anything that could be in any way called a sales call. What happens when we as buyer get into that situation is we show up guarded, we put our seatbelt on, we open our ears, and we wait to be word vomited on. That's what we expect. We expect them to be like, okay, Dawn, I've only got 20 minutes of your time, so now I need to tell you why we are the best thing that could ever possibly happen to your business. And you get whiplash. You're like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Like you said, they have questions. They have needs. But for me, is selling a manipulative act? Yes, it is. I am causing you, I am leading you to feel certain things, and hopefully ultimately will agree that you should make the same decision. But it's not a harmfully manipulative act in that if I'm selling with integrity, if I'm selling with ethics, and if I'm only selling things that people truly want or need, I'm not taking them by the hand and leading them where they don't want to go. I'm not saying, no, Dawn, you idiot, you don't want a pair of jeans, you want this mini skirt. What's wrong with you? It's the exact same situation as, Dawn, what's like a movie or a TV show that you super love?
Top Gun.
Top Gun. Okay, perfect. Top Gun has tearjerker moments, and it has moments of humor. And one of the amazing things about that movie, it also has a ton of adrenaline. Yes. Because it's literally a movie about fighter pilots, right? Right. So when you feel like you're taking off with them, when, spoilers, Goose happens.
Oh, we can't. Yeah, we can't go into that in the show. I said
right, but like tears, lots of tears, but there's also lots of humor. That movie is manipulating the heck out of you to get you to feel those things. But the difference is you didn't sign on to watching Top Gun in order to feel, let's say, religiously motivated, or in order to feel like, what lovely background, how uplifting. You're not trying to go there, and then it switches on you. And it's
That's a great example. Because I choose to let that movie manipulate me over and over and over again.
Absolutely. We sign up for that. So is selling manipulative in that it makes you feel things? Yes. In that it makes you do things? Yes. But ethical sales and selling with integrity, or what I call non-sleazy sales, says I will take you by the hand and I will help you get to where you want to go, not where I, as seller, choose for you to go.
Yes. You know, my colleague Natalie does most of our sales here at Jottful, and she's not a salesperson by training. She just kind of fell into this at Jottful because it was just the obvious fit. And, you know, she's very consultative. So it's not like she starts by talking. She starts by asking questions and listening and really understanding what it is that the customer needs. And then she helps them figure out whether or not Jottful is even a good fit for them. Like, qualification is actually, you know, one of the most important things that she does. But still, she felt a little weird about it because she never really thought of herself as a salesperson. And so she read a book, and I wish I knew the title of it because I would absolutely say it here to give credit to it. But she read a book. And she came away and she said, oh my gosh, I have completely changed the way I think about sales, because I realized that what I'm actually doing is helping people. I'm helping them understand how it is that they can get, in our case, you know, a website for their business. And oftentimes Jottful's not the right way. And so she'll say, you know, go over here and I can recommend an agency for you, or frankly, you should just build your own. Here's some software you might consider. She said, once I repositioned the way I was thinking about sales and realized that my job was really to help people, it became so much more enjoyable.
Yes. For anybody who's just listening and not watching, I am nodding so emphatically my head may fall off. Absolutely. So many things in there that I heard in that example that I just absolutely want to bring up to the surface again because they're critical. Number one, listening and asking questions. One of the main ways that we've been sold to terribly is when we've been talked over, when we haven't been listened to, or when our feedback or questions have not been fully respected. That happens a ton, especially in the kind of like, I will break you down so you see how much you need this, you idiot. That kind of selling disrespects you because it doesn't give you space. Now, another time that happens when we don't mean it to be disrespectful is when we, the seller, are nervous or we don't know quite what we're supposed to be doing on those calls. We have a tendency to babble. I call it sales vomiting, right? And this happens a lot around areas of price. Now, I happen to know that Jottful prides itself on being infinitely more affordable than most agencies. And that's great.
And we're transparent with our pricing, which actually eliminates a lot of the babbling on calls, right? You could just go to our website and see what it is.
But imagine if you had not consciously made those choices. You get someone on a call, they're interested in Jottful, they're all about it, they've done their competitive analysis, and you say, and the price for this service today that I'm offering you is X. And then Rather than letting them think, letting them process, or letting them respond, what we do is go, are you concerned about that? Does that bother you? Because here's the thing, really?
Right. We negotiate against ourselves. Yeah.
Amen. Now think of it this way. If you went to a restaurant for a special occasion, even if the special occasion is an everyday special occasion, but let's say you're really excited to be at this restaurant. You've heard about it. It's like the toast of Detroit. Everyone's losing their minds about it. They love it. They just can't get enough. And you go and you know that you're about to drop some serious money, but you've decided ahead of time it's going to be worth it. This restaurant's great. And the server comes up and says, Dawn, would you like to hear about the specials? And you'd say, yes, I'd love to hear the specials. And they tell you the specials. And after the specials, instead of leaving your table so you can sip on your water or wine and look at the menu in your own way, they stand there instead and go, did I tell you about the chicken, Dawn? Did I tell you about the chicken? Now, I know that it's a little bit expensive. And also market price is $31, which if you look and you go down the street, $31 is not actually that expensive comparatively. Like, I've done a lot of research here. You would leave the restaurant.
Yeah.
That would ruin your experience. That's what we do all the time on these calls when we try to fill their thinking space, right? So I love that Jottful sales is largely based on listening and responding. The other thing is, it's absolutely true that the first act of truly serving in a way that creates that win-win is selling. If you're never receiving for all you put out, that's not a business, that's masochism. And if you're never giving, but always offering and dangling, then what you're doing instead is you're just being a big tease and saying, nanny, nanny, boo-boo, I could solve your problem, but I'm not going to. Ha, ha, ha. We don't want to do either of those things. By asking, we receive the ability to get the yes. We receive the opportunity, first and foremost, to solve the problem. The client gets so much more than whatever that bottom line that you're offering them is in a service-based business. They're getting support. They're getting companionship. Who knows, right? They're getting honesty, respectability, ethics, and virtue. They're getting all of those things bundled in. But if we don't at least say, hey, listen, I want to work with you. I honor your investment. I would like for you to make it with me. Here's the buy button. Please click it.
When you first started out, Annie, you said that you were effectively giving away a lot of your service.
Yes.
And ultimately figured out how to do sales. I think one of the challenges for a lot of business owners, or one of the solutions that a lot of business owners apply, is they say, well, I'm not good at sales, so I'm going to hire somebody else to do it for me. Why did you decide to do that yourself? And why didn't you just hire somebody else to do it for you? And I know that the answer could simply be that, you know, there wasn't enough cash, but of course you can always do some kind of commission-based deal to bring on a salesperson. But why did you feel like it was important for you as the founder to be doing the sales? And is that what you recommend for other business owners?
I am the heart, the soul, the voice, and the face of my business. There will be a time in the academy when there are other teachers that is actively planned. I am looking for them right now. But for right now, every single second of delivery, every deliverable has been touched by me, if not created by me. Nobody understands my love for my client more than me. Nobody understands the limits on me more than me. And nobody understands what makes me tick and what makes my work important better than I do. So here's the thing. I decided, rather than try to farm it out to somebody else who will sell beyond my ethics and integrity, possibly with strategies that I don't like or don't have my domain expertise, that I would take it and I would sell and do my own selling. Now, again, I was totally avoidant of this. I thought this was like sentencing myself to torture. Turns out it wasn't. But I work with people all the time who are bringing on their first hires. I'm not anti-sales team. I'm pro-sales team. Once you have created the culture of non-sleazy selling within your organization, that sales process needs to be infused with your ethics, your values, and your voice. When I sit in a selling situation or when I'm on your website, I don't want it to feel like all of your nameless competitors. I want it to feel like something fresh and new, and that's marketing. But until that is brought in with intention, and until boundaries and lines are set of what you'll deliver and what you won't deliver, what you'll promise, what you won't promise, how you fix customer service issues, because that's all connected to sales, until those things are locked down in a way that you can hand to another person, and until the owner feels comfortable to at least have a hand in training the sales team to make sure that they're a cultural fit, do not hire a team.
Yeah, I think, I'm just going to pull out one word from what you just said, and that's the word process. So once you really know what the product or service is that you offer, and you're really super clear about that, and you have, to your point, how the customer service works around that, what are the FAQs around that, what are you going to expect to hear from prospects? Once you have all of that, then you can pull together your sales process. Like, we know we do a 15-minute intro call, and after the intro call, we send this email summarizing it. And then after that, we do, like at Jottful, we do a free homepage demo. So we'll do a free homepage demo, and then these are the questions we ask on the homepage demo, and this is how we walk through it, right? Actually, step by step, have all of that stuff actually documented before you bring on a sales rep. We see all the time, with our customer base, people just, they don't want to do the sales. They don't think that they're going to be good at it. And so they hire somebody to do it, but they haven't figured it out themselves. They don't actually have any training materials to give that person. They're just kind of winging it.
Yep. And you rob yourself of so much juicy, potent R&D. Like you just said, you get so much learning cues and all these things. Like, we spend all day, every day in our businesses being like, what's the avatar? What's the ideal? What's this? What's that? What's the buying psychology? What's the buy cycle? What's the this? What's the that? Hello? The number one way to find that things out is to open your ears and ask good questions, right? Yep. So that's a whole other side benefit of doing your own selling, is that it is the perfect way to test if all of your marketing is laid correctly. It's also a really amazing opportunity to test how your funnels are working. How did you hear about me? To see who your top referrers are before you farm that information away and have them report back to you, which most of us then forget to ask. We go, how many sales did you make this week? What were the main red flags that came up? We don't say, who were the top referrers of the week? What were the main objections you got of the week? Because if you get that information, to your point from before, Jottful's pricing is on the website. I handle objections, at least the common ones, on my website. By the time they get on the phone with me, a lot of that's already handled.
Yeah, it's so funny. Natalie had a call this week, and the prospect said, I had 30 questions, and she's very specific. She had written down 30 questions. She said, your website answered 23 of them. So I have 7 questions remaining. And we thought, wow, this, and my first question was, what were the 7? Let me know what those are so we can go ahead. I think that's what a key point is, that when you're doing marketing for a business, a lot of the data that you get is quantitative, right? You're not getting that qualitative, anecdotal information that is so valuable to help you tailor your messaging or figure out new channels you can use to reach your audience. And I rely on Natalie. We sit down every week, and I'll give her new questions I want her to ask prospects. Like, can you figure this out? If they come in through this channel, can you figure out what they searched for to find us, right? Ask those kinds of questions so that you can use that information to improve the marketing all the way back to the top of the funnel.
It's also how you hear the best stories.
Oh, it really is. Yeah. And you get your case studies from there.
100%. 100%. So don't cut off that beautiful font of information early by farming out your selling, and make sure, if you are hiring, that you're hiring for culture and integrity more than you're hiring for skill. You can teach someone a great script. You can't teach someone how to listen. Yes.
So one last question here before we get to the real, so I guess this is the penultimate question is, what habits make us better at selling?
I wish that I could say that there's a habit that I've found that has made rejection easy.
Oh, yeah.
I can't. But I think, honestly, in selling and the way I teach it, yes, there is a mindset component. I focus more on strategy. But one skill that you can absolutely do is whatever you can do to show up in full integrity. So first things first, work your ethical muscle. If there is something in your industry that you think is dead wrong, take the steps to rise against it and sell differently or serve differently if it's not even just a sales situation. So first things first, exercise that integrity muscle actively. Don't just say, I want to show up with integrity. Really get clear with yourself. What does that look like? Another thing that we can do to be better at sales, I already said, talk less, listen more. In that we really want to make sure that we are assessing fit. We can't do that if we word vomit all over people. So what I want you to think on the next time you're on a selling situation is give them the keys to the car. You become the navigator. Enjoy the ride. Point out landmarks on the way. So one of them is turn down the talking, turn up the listening. The other is use your empathy for good, but be careful that it's not misfiring. One of the main things that I saw over and over when I did all of my own exploration of sales knowledge was that everyone's talking about how empathy is the single most important thing you can have. It's how you get inside the mind of the client. It's how you create rapport, trust, all those things. Totally true. However, in highly empathic people, in highly emotional situations with high stakes, we have a tendency then to combine our own anxiety or lack of liking to be sold to. We mix that into the empathy and we say, I'm making the client uncomfortable by asking. I'm going to abuse the client by asking. No, if you're working your ethics and integrity muscle, you're not. Leave your own anxiety, leave your own ego out of it as much as humanly possible, which will do two things. Number one, again, it will help you see if you are truly the right fit. And on the back end, if you wind up getting the no, you'll have a better understanding of why, and you will see that in 9 times out of 10, that no is not personal. You can also then have a plan for not nows or maybes, which are more actionable, that could get you to that yes faster, but you can walk away from the true no without beating yourself up so much and seeing it as a rejection.
You know, I never thought about this until I just listened to you speaking, Annie, but I think that there's really a point at which we make ourselves vulnerable when we ask for the sale. And just like anything, the more vulnerable you make yourself, the more likely you are to really feel the rejection. But you have to ask for the sale. So you have to make yourself vulnerable and just realize that rejection is part of the game.
And it does get easier, right? I can't make it not hurt.
Right.
But just because it hurts, it doesn't mean it matters. Each individual rejection can still sting, but if you ask more, you get more wins. That's just the law of averages. So each of those wins goes into the pool with the little mini rejections. Suddenly those rejections don't feel like an endless stream anymore. They feel like an occasional disappointment again, which is what they should feel like in the first place.
Excellent. All right. So Annie, if you were to do it all over again, is there one thing you would do differently?
Yes.
At least one.
I mean, there's 1,000. There's 100,000 things. I mean, I would drink water. I mean, that's a biggie, right? But if I were to start all over again, I would respect myself and my work enough not to behave like a nonprofit by over delivering and under asking. I am the one who burned myself out. I am the one who gave myself adrenal fatigue. I am the one who overdrew my bank account. And I can say those things without beating myself up. It's just the fact of life. I was spending a lot of money on shiny, glossy marketing, never asking, and bending over backwards to try to please people that were never going to pay me. That was on me. What I wish that I could have done differently is said, hey, you are a heart-centered do-gooder Muppet, but you're also a business. And the first step of being respected as a business is respecting yourself as a business. And I just, as much as I loved myself and as much as I believed in what I was doing, as proud as I was by my potential impact, I did not respect myself enough to sell.
Yeah. Oh, such great words, especially for business owners who are self-employed, for whom it's very difficult to separate the business and the person. Really, really grateful for that. Thank you, Annie.
Oh, my pleasure.
Well, that's a wrap. If you enjoyed this episode of Marketing Made Easy, please subscribe to Jottful's YouTube channel. That's JOTTFUL. That way, you'll never miss an episode. We'll meet you on the next one.